But the gist of what you're hearing out of the Romney side of the camp and the establishment side, for lack of a better term, is that they're concerned for the future of the party and the direction the party's going in. And to hear Mitt Romney tell us that nominating someone like Donald Trump would lead to certain defeat, maybe blowout defeat, in the fall election. It wasn't that long ago that Senator John McCain had worried about the Republicans even losing the Senate in that event. Speaking of the Senate, Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions with us right now. Now, this particular Republican senator doesn't share that view. In fact, he is supporting Mr. Trump. Senator, good to have you.
Thank you, Neil. Good to be with you.
What do you see that these other colleagues of yours who've been bashing Donald Trump do not?
Well, he's bringing in a great new group of people. Let me tell you this, Neil. I've been saying this since the first idea came forward after Romney lost, that we should be more moderate and grant amnesty to illegals who enter the country. And this is what I believe. We lost the election with the under $50,000 a year voter. We got killed. Romney had this terrible image that he didn't care about people like me. From $30,000 to $50,000 a year voters, Romney lost it 15. George Bush in 2004 split that vote almost evenly. Under 30,000, Romney lost it 28 points. And it's time for a Republican nominee to talk to the average working American. Until we do, no matter how white your shirt is and how pretty your tie, you're not going to be able to generate the votes to win. And Trump is bringing in this big rally in Huntsville, Madison, Alabama, was huge, and it was all kinds of people there. And they were seeing hope, a change agent, somebody who's going to break through this business as usual. And I think the voters are right. The government has not understood their needs, and that's why they're upset.
Then, Senator, what do you think of your colleague, Bill Sass of the fine state of Nebraska, who says he just can't bring himself to support Mr. Trump, and that he'd sooner look for a real Republican, paraphrasing here, conservative, independently minded, if not independent outright, candidate?
Well, look, we all know Donald Trump has been aggressive in what he said and how he makes his points, but I really think and he's a good person, a good senator, but I think if we give him a chance to lay out a program, we're going to see that more and more Americans are going to be drifting to that kind of vision for the country. I think he could be able, perhaps, who knows? I'll admit, I don't know how these elections would come out. I'd go to London and put my money on it. But and others could too if they're so certain. But I think Trump has a chance to add to the party, bring in those lower income voters that we've been losing, because he demonstrates that he's upset about what's going on. He says it's hurting you, and I'm going to do the things necessary to fix it. That's a good message. I think it can make a real difference in November and maybe surge the Republican Party even more than we thought. That's what Reagan did fundamentally. He brought in the Reagan Democrats, working people who hadn't been with us, and achieved great victories.
That is the arguing factor, and certainly has brought in many, many new voters, to your point, sir. But one of the things that Mitt Romney and others have mentioned is, but what is happening to the Republican brand? What is it? What does the party stand for? They talk about his views on tariffs and maybe enacting trade wars. They talk about a plan on illegal immigration that isn't consistent, that he says different things to different folks, maybe different things to the New York Times board of editors than he would to the regular folks. Now, they could be over-dramatizing this, but they just don't feel he's a real Republican or even a real conservative. So what do you say to that?
I would say a couple of things. Is it liberal or conservative to believe we should have a lawful system of immigration that serves the interest of the United States of America? Now, that's conservative. It's liberal and even radical to go along with this lawlessness we have today. Having a trade agreement with our trading competitors who are tough, mercantilists, seeking advantage every single day, and we never defend the integrity of the agreement, never insist that the American worker and American manufacturer be defended against unfair competition. How is that?
Well, would you be for? He's intimated that tariffs would be in order if everything else fails. Let's say with the Chinese. Now, would you be for that?
This is what Romney said in the primary 8 years ago. This is so important. He said, if you don't stand up to China, they'll run over you. If you stand up to them, people like you will say you're going to create a trade war. But he said, we're already in a trade war. We're just not fighting.
I understand that, sir. I wasn't clear that if you do enact tariffs, and following up on talking tough, that would be the end result, the fallout would be on American consumers, right? That it wasn't that the fear his competitors raised that American consumers would be paying dearly for that toughness.
Well, you don't want to do it. That is true. You want to avoid that if we can. But what Romney said was China has more to lose than we do. They need our market more than we have to have their products. Maybe a few cents more expensive somewhere else. It will not devastate America, but we are getting hammered. Our manufacturing is being eroded. It really is. A lot of it as a result of unfair trade practices. It really is.
And
do we do
nothing?
nothing?
On that point, and that what they're saying and whether it works or not, did you notice that in Governor Romney's remarks today, he didn't throw his support behind one candidate. He urged the others, stay in the race. They're all good men. They all do a great job.
Yeah.
All but anticipating, if you buy the math, the more in the race, the more likely it is difficult for one guy to mass all the delegates before you get to Cleveland. Do you think a brokered convention is possible, that we don't have all the delegates for one guy by the time you get to the convention?
Well, you never know, do you? It's a raucous campaign. It's a real battle royal. I like the other candidates. I'd support them enthusiastically in November. I'm just afraid to win this election, we need to appeal to that under $50,000 a year voter.
Yeah.
There's no numbers that add up to put you to victory other than doing better with them. And right now, the one candidate that's gelling with them is Trump.
Senator, you know, the Senate is known as a very gentlemanly, gentlewomanly environment. I mean, there's a sort of a conduct that's respectable, admirable, and the feeling seems to be there's anything but among the Republican Party these days, and that it would be very, very tough for everyone to get along and march out united, assuming Donald Trump is the nominee, especially when people like Marco Rubio have called him a con man and Mitt Romney has called him a phony. Do you think those guys could rally around Donald Trump in the end if, indeed, he becomes the nominee?
Neil, it is a real serious question. And if they unite in a way that's perceived by the people and the new voters for Trump as being unfair and illegitimate, then it could create real damage to us.
So your recommendation to Marco Rubio, your recommendation to some of these others who said I could never support him, or I'll sooner vote, as Christy Todd Whitman said to me, for Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump, that they should cool that, start coming together now? What?
I think they should continue their campaigns and support who they want. But yes, we need to cool this rhetoric. And I tell you, I disagree with Republican members of Congress and the Senate, but there are a lot of great people there, and Trump would need to work with them. So he needs to understand that in the end, we need to all get together. He's going to need the Congress.
Well, doesn't he have to start that process? I mean,
many argue,
you know, with the water bottle thing, criticizing Marco Rubio, that's not presidential, and so they don't forget that stuff either. It's led to ill will on both sides.
We need to elevate the campaign rhetoric on all sides. We need to move to more effort to deal with real issues, wages for American citizens, how we can help them have a better life. And yes, you're right, I truly believe that, but it's a free American republic. From the beginning of the republic, there were some really rough campaigns, and this one is one of the roughest I've seen.
Yeah. But you know, it always works out one way or the other, doesn't it, Senator?
It does. It's a great country. It's hard to kill it off, thankfully.
Yeah. When I'm at a family reunion, I just say, you know, pass the pasta. And they're yelling at each other. Eventually it all works out. Senator, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Neil.
Senator Sessions, a big backer of one Donald Trump.